Hello, welcome to Tarot with Tanya. This is 7 cards for 7 days, and we are looking at the week of Monday, July 28th to Sunday, August 3rd. Hard to believe we're there already. I will talk about the aspects this week, some astrology, where the moon is, what some planets are how they're interacting with each other, and then the cards. And I'm using the Morgan Greer deck today, and then we'll end with a Tree Keeper's Oracle card. As always, take what resonates for you and leave the rest behind. That's good practice when it's a general reading for the collective, as this is. If you have personal questions, please reach out. And welcome. If you're here for the first time, welcome back if you are new. Excuse me, if you are not new, if you've been here before. All right, so we begin our week with the moon in Virgo. Last week's video, I know that's where we ended, so there's that crossover from Sunday to Monday. Practical, earthy, of service, analytical, precise. Those are all qualities of Virgo, and I mentioned earthy, so it is an earth sign. And then we're going to go, this is all after this new moon in Leo, right? So we have a waxing moon, and we'll go to Libra, the diplomat, the one who loves aesthetics, has things in balance, justice, those qualities, likes harmony in relationships. And then we will move to Scorpio. And Scorpio is about the depths of things, very psychic, very intuitive, into secrecy, likes, finding out secrets, knowing things, associated that house it rules, death, taxes, things like that. And then we'll end with the moon in Sagittarius, which is fire. Scorpio's water, I forgot to say that. And then Sag would be our fire. Connected with international travel, foreign relations, higher education, the law, things like that. All right, so on Wednesday of this week, which would be the 30th, or I'm wondering about that date. Anyway, Wednesday of this week, oh, that would be right. We have Venus entering Cancer. And here, finances may fluctuate. Venus is connected to money. We might be focused more on our long-term security. We might want to try to save some money because of those financial fluctuations. It's about children. It's about security at home, and Venus, one, I think, astrologer, I've mentioned this before, calls Venus the social director. So she's really going to put a kind of big energy, a feminine energy, but a big one still, toward the things that Cancer rules, which are things like home, food, security, children, spending time with family, and including even writing a romance novel. Venus is very romantic, obviously. Cancer is a feminine water sign, so I could see that creativity happening there as well. And then on Friday, we have the Sun conjunct Mercury. This is good for meeting people. It's good for doing your errands. It's good for learning, for teaching, for setting goals. It can help us be alert and curious and intentional about what we do. And Mercury moves very quickly, so that won't last long, so you want to take advantage of that. And then on Saturday, the 2nd rather, We have Venus square Saturn, Venus square Neptune. All right, so that's the not so pleasant part of the week. Saturn can make us feel lonely in connection to Venus. It is not easy to express our emotions. Venus would be connected to the more emotional self, but Saturn likes the discipline, even control, structure, order, things like that. And also, when you have Venus squaring Neptune, that's our creativity, that's our collective unconscious. So it could feel, again, a little hard to express the emotions, a little bit hard to get our creativity out there. And it can also leave us vulnerable to deceit, to intrigue and lies. We could end up feeling dreamy, nostalgic. And, love could be evasive that day, and it could be emotionally frustrating. So it helps to focus on being steady, sober, and reliable. Those are the Saturn traits, which, would be a good way to get through that energy. All right. So, as I mentioned, I'm using the Morgan Greer. And the first thing that struck me was that we have 3 majors this week. So a lot of bigger kinds of energy. I don't think it's too surprising when we have some of this squaring going on and conjunctions and Venus making the shift. And though this is Monday and Venus doesn't shift until Wednesday, I feel like this is bringing that up. So you've got the Lovers. And that can be things like partnerships, negotiations, and obviously love, romance, building a lasting union, or, on the darker side, codependence and, the problems that can come along with relationships. But if you're vibrating to this more personally, very good for doing some relationship connecting, working, things like that. If it's on the bigger collective, there are a lot of interesting relationships, and I'm not talking romantic, some involve that too, but just in general, in the news right now, and some sex trafficking associations, people who've been involved with this, and a lot of speculation. So could be responding to that. On Tuesday, we get the Water Fairy, the Queen of Cups, looking very I'd say almost placid here. You've got all this water behind her. She has her big chalice and a sort of fan, and almost scry. She's not looking at the water, which would be the scrying, looking at water for psychic information, but it's almost like she might do that or has done that and is thinking or dwelling, letting it simmer on this information that she might have received, because she's very psychic, very intuitive, and very powerful in those ways because she is a queen. Now the darker side can be smothering people, being too involved in their emotional worlds, things like that, not having good boundaries. We get to the second major by Wednesday, and that is the Chariot. So it's a 7. The Lovers are a 6, so this is after that, obviously. And you've had this relationship focus, and now this seems a little more individual to me and galloping forward. Sometimes I see it, depending on the way the artist has depicted it in the deck, as preparing to move forward. So, which of those might apply, but really putting some energy into making things move forward and doing that from a place of inner resources. The downside can be, running roughshod over other people. Thursday, I also forgot to mention, we have cups are our strongest suit by far this week. We have 3 cups. And here's that 4, the one that always puzzles me. It is kind of, I think, it puzzles me because it is sort of stagnant. It's not focusing on what's in front of a kind of green man's face there, but looking to these sort of golden clouds. They almost look like cobblestones or something, rubble or something like that. But you know, there's the cup that this is focused on. But what's going on with the 3 that are sitting there? So obviously it's the 4, it's right after the 3. 3 is harmony, women, groups, having a good time, enjoying, communicating, being together. And this one, it's almost like, well, all right, that's over here, but I want this other thing. And what is that other thing? So, you know, gratitude could be a good remedy for that. Well, what do I have? What do I enjoy? And the next thing will naturally come. Interestingly enough, now we follow on Friday with the 5 of Cups. So if we don't kind of go into the gratitude, a natural step could be going into disappointment. And that's what this card is labeled in the Thoth deck. So you've got 3 cups that have spilled. They almost look like blood, but we'll say it's wine here. You've got this kind of castle on the island and the figure with the, you know, head bowed sort of toward that, like, is there something lost, a place he cannot get to, or she. And all the time, the other 2 cups are sitting behind this person, and that's the 2 of Cups, love. So I think that particular suite really, really tells the story. I mean, it's going to vary in different decks, but there's this kind of overall thrust of going through these emotional cycles, and in this one, feeling a kind of disappointment that something didn't work out, but that could be very protective. It could end up getting better, and then also remembering, you know, what's still there. Those 2 cups, the love is still there. Saturday, or on the weekend, we've got the Wheel of Fortune. And that's number 10, which relates to all the 10s and the 1s in the deck. So there's a way when this cycle turns, you know, we're starting something, the energy is shifting, starting anew. And here you have the king and queen on top, celebrating, and this other person, reminds me a bit of the Tower, kind of being, it feels like tossed off. It's sort of like you're on the Ferris wheel, right? But you don't really have a seat. So when you're on top, great. Maybe you can hold on as you climb, but then the momentum might throw you off at the top. So it's all a cycle. What goes up must come down, and so forth. So it goes round and round, and we are part of that. And so it's a good reminder to notice our cycles, to honor our cycles. And, you know, one of my favorite psychic readers on YouTube always says, this too shall pass. And it's a good reminder about that too. And, you know, working on the inner self. Don't be focused on the external, but work with your internal self. And then our Sunday card, and we kind of switch gears here. Now we're with the swords, the air element. So after all the cups of the weeks and the majors, we have this one sword, and it's also a royal card because it's the page. So the page can be associated with news coming in, new ideas, a kind of breath of fresh air in a way, like taking the sword and knocking down the cobwebs, or trying to break up the smoke, dispel that, cut through any miasma. And, you know, of course, it's the youngest of the people cards, the pages are. So the energy is new and fresh in that sense. There could be some beginner's luck there, or there could be a little bit more stumbling with that too. So you want to watch, like, too sharp words, but focus more on what, you know, can cut through this, and what's clear, and what's good information. All right, so again, 3 majors for the week. That to me does connect to the Empress, to flow and harmony and creativity. So it could be a very good week to get creative. Hopefully last week with the new moon in Leo, you set some creative intentions. And this could be a good week to, start to move in that direction with them. And then I should also say with the Cups, that could be a lot of feelings this week too. And with Venus going into Cancer, that makes a lot of sense. Our feelings could be amplified, whereas Venus in Gemini is going to be a little bit more detached, a little bit more about ideas and not so much energy toward feelings. So the Tree Oracle card today is Keeper of Endings. I'll give you a visual here. And I realize kind of the colors that I'm wearing today. I try to let Spirit just guide me on those kinds of things. So the forest is a place of endings and beginnings, and no one honors the process of ending quite like the tree keepers. They carefully watch for the signs of illness, decay, or death, tending what can be mended, letting go of what has served its purpose in the great weave of nature's tapestry. The Japanese word akeru means to pierce, to begin, to end. Over and over, we are reminded that endings contain beginnings inside them, and the piercing of grief creates a sacred opening in our psyche where new life may pass through. We need to mourn our endings and give the heart the space to process loss, but be careful not to tread too closely to despair. For while ending carries new life inside it, despair keeps us from seeing it clearly. And that reminds me a little bit of this card too, not knowing it's a minor, knowing it will pass, not holding on to it. We are also, and I've mentioned this I think several times, and this endings card came up recently too, we really are in a place of transformation, and that can be painful. There is ending there. Things are changing. We don't know where the world's going exactly. We don't know what's happening in our country in a lot of ways, economically, socially, with education, healthcare, access to healthcare, so forth. So be brave, be confident as you can, go inward again. We're focusing on the internal and feeding the good energy for yourself. This too shall pass, and we will be okay. So I'm wishing you the best possible week you can have, beloveds, and please reach out if you think I can help you. There's information below and at the end of the video. And please like, share, and subscribe. That helps a lot. And I'll see you again in 7 days.